Today's Functionized podcast is brought to you by Functionized Integrative Therapeutics, home of the unique Fit Lab. The Fit Lab was designed to bring you total health and fitness in the most efficient and effective manner. We blend cutting-edge science and technology and put into practical application. Conventional wisdom says you need to spend hours each week to see results. Science says otherwise. Developed with decades of experience, we provide the formula to ensure you achieve your health and fitness goals in just minutes every single week. Build strength and endurance, improve your fitness, have more energy, lose fat. We recognize time is valuable, efficiency is key, and always quantify results. Check out Functionized, www.functionized, functionized.com. Check out Facebook, Instagram, Functionized, functionized, or give the professionals a call, 848-444-9032. Functionized. Live Functionized.
She is an expert in both physical and mental peak performance. She trains your brain and allows you to reach new heights of success never dreamed of. She is a published author, earning a PhD in applied psychophysiology and holds a master's in sports psychology. She is a figure competitor, trains the brain and trains the body, and embodies living functionized. She lives up to the name of Beauty, Brains, Brawn. She is Shantae Gertz, and this is the Shantae Gertz Functionized podcast.
Hello everybody, it is Shantae Gertz here with Functionized Integrative Therapeutics, the Beauty, Brains, Brawn of our organization. Wanting to truly welcome our next guest of Angelika Sadar, who is a biofeedback and neurofeedback expert within the field of psychophysiology. So the topic that I preach and I'm so passionate about, and I can't wait for everybody to understand more about the benefits of using bio and neurofeedback to help you in your everyday lives. So without further ado, we're going to go to Angelika. You're taking the time to talk about biofeedback, neurofeedback, and peak performance, and tell us a little bit about you and how you got started with everything.
All right. Well, I got started back in early 2000, about 2001. I practiced with my husband, and at that time we had a traditional clinical psychology practice, and he had been working in a position, he actually was maximum security penitentiaries and was looking for a big change, and he got into biofeedback. He got into neurofeedback specifically and brought it into the private practice, and as he was looking for clients, I would refer some of my clients to him that had been long-term therapy clients. And they, were stable, but still continuing with therapy because they were having trouble managing some things in their lives, managing how they felt, their depression, anxiety, whatever. So they did the biofeedback, and within months, literally, they were feeling better and no longer seeing me. And I was like, well,
good for him, bad for you, right?
So that's how I began training. And like most people, then you come back from your initial, coursework, and you start to practice with family, yourself, with clients you've known a long time that are interested. And from there, before too long, we switched over then from a traditional therapy practice to a biofeedback practice, and we started offering neurofeedback, and then we included heart rate variability, and then over the years just added all kinds of different forms of biofeedback, including passive infrared, hemoencephalography, and PEMFT, and
right,
take-home products, and all kinds of things. Yeah.
Have you found within your clients now that they thrive using your methods?
Yeah, there is a very good place for traditional psychotherapy, but what we know now is so different from what we knew. When I first trained, and we're talking in the late 70s, nobody talked about what is the brain doing.
Right.
Nobody talked about, we knew a little bit about psychophysiology. We knew that you could lower and raise your blood pressure. That's going back in the early 80s. That equipment was very unsophisticated. It was a red and a green light. If you were raising your blood pressure, the red light went on. End of story. You just sat there and practiced. So, being able to offer people insights into what their brain is doing, how they can relax their muscles, teaching them how to relax their muscles, teaching them how to use their breathing to enhance their performance, it's magic. It's entirely different than sitting there and talking about it.
Right. I absolutely think that it's magic, as you say. So for those that don't know what biofeedback or neurofeedback is, what is the easiest description you could do for listeners?
Actually, everybody does know what biofeedback is. They just don't know that they know it.
Right.
When you take your temperature, which we all have done, you are getting a measurement of a physiological process. And you use that measurement to then alter your behavior. So if you wake up in the morning and you feel like, oh, I feel hot, let me take my temperature, and it's 98.6, you really don't make an alteration. You go to school, go to work. If it's 101, you call up work and you say, you know what, I'm not feeling well, I'm not coming in. You lay around, maybe you make your chicken soup, and you then later in the day take another measurement to see, did I make a change? On the other hand, if your temperature is 104, you might call the doctor. If it's 105, you may go to the emergency room. In each case, you're getting a reading and you're doing something to change the direction of that measurement. So it's a slow process. With the biofeedback equipment we have now that's just so sophisticated because of the computer technology that we have, you can get a measurement and try to make a change that's going to impact that measurement and see that in virtually real time. So you can see what your breathing rate is like. You can see what your sweating response is like. Sweating is a measurement of what's happening physiologically when you're in a fight or flight. You can see what your brain waves are doing. And when you can see what your brain waves are doing, that's the neurofeedback portion. So neurofeedback is a form of biofeedback that is focused on measuring brainwave, the electrical activity in the brain. And when we measure that and we show it to people in real time, meaning you project an image on the screen that is a symbolic representation of what the brainwaves are doing, people can look to change that and hence cause their brainwaves to work more efficiently.
That's excellent. It is amazing to know what we can do when we can see what our bodies are doing and how we respond. It's an amazing tool. I know that you have worked in sports and tennis specifically for quite some time. Can you elaborate on how biofeedback could be used for peak performance training?
Yes. And I want to say, when I think of peak performance training, everybody is looking for peak performance training.
Correct.
So if you have a child that has ADHD, you're looking to improve their performance. And that will be their measurement of peak performance. When you're working with athletes, they want to win more. So the first step is defining, what does that mean? What do you need to do? Well, I need to execute the plan that I have. I need to not change my plan during the course of a competition. And then we look at, well, why do you change your plan? Do you change your plan because you lose attention? Do you change your plan because you're anxious? And then we look at, well, how can we address those concerns? How can we measure them? And how can we teach you to train them? And ultimately, a player wants to be able to use those skills that they learn while they're in the heat of the competition. Most high-level athletes have good skills.
Yes.
They all can do the physical activity they need to do. What they need, where the difference in the winning and the losing comes into play, is who was able to keep their mental focus longer.
Right, because what is your game without the mental clarity and focus? Right?
Yeah.
And I love that you mentioned that peak performance is for everyone. You know, I see so many executives, for instance, that want to perform better at work, in the boardroom, handling travel, you know, and managing other people.
Yeah.
So I think that it's a huge component to helping them learn how to deal with the stress and anxiety that comes along with those high pressure positions.
Yeah, like you're saying, the stress, the anxiety, athletes that are performing, at a high level, they don't get good sleep. If you're traveling between time zones, your sleep is going to be disturbed. Having tools that you can physiologically engage with in order to help facilitate better sleep is going to make better performance.
What do you recommend as far as modalities to help with sleep?
Everything that I like to do very individually. So I like to look at what feels comfortable to the person that I'm working with. If we look at neurofeedback, we can look at, is the brain able to relax? People that are competitive sometimes have a hard time turning that off, and you need to turn that off. The field of neurofeedback goes all the way back to studying fighter pilots, and one of the things that we know about fighter pilots is that the good fighter pilots are able to activate their brain and relax their brain. And the brain works the best when it's had good relaxation. So neurofeedback could be something that we use to help create a stable sleep pattern. Even simple things as far as just working behaviorally. If you're switching time zones, move right into that time zone as soon as you get on the plane. When you arrive, stick with that time zone. Don't try to stay in your old time zone. Sleep in a dark room. No electronics. So things like that are very behavioral. The heart rate variability training, I personally use. I'm a good sleeper, but maybe once a month I have one of those nights where I'm like, oh my gosh, why am I not sleeping? And heart rate variability is just an awesome tool to implement at that time. There's a device called the David Delight.
Yes, I have that. I love it.
Yeah, a lot of people like it a lot. And again, when we're talking about a high performer, whether it's an executive or an athlete, what we're looking at is for them to be able to perform their best more of the time, and we want to do that in a way, we want to do the training in a way that's comfortable for them. So some people really like the David, and it's easy to carry. If you're doing a lot of traveling, you just pack it in your suitcase. It can work as a nice adjunct between the sessions that you're having with the neurofeedback provider. There are lots of apps now available, and as well as computer programs that are very accessible and easy to download for the heart rate variability. So I like to work with the individual and find the program that works best for them.
I think that's so nice that each program can be customized. You know, there's no one size fits all approach to working with individuals.
Yeah, exactly right.
And it sounds like you got a lot of great tools at your disposal there.
The field has a lot of tools, and one of the things is, a lot of these tools are available online. You can purchase them directly, and that's a really good thing in that it's bringing awareness to the public, and it's engaging the public with the knowledge of I can help do things physiologically to help myself. On the other hand, I want to insert a caution as well. because you want to use the device that's right for what your physiological needs are.
Right.
And that's common sense. I mean, it's the same, like not everybody should be taking vitamin D.
Right.
Vitamin D is good to have, but you don't need to take it if you have enough of it.
Correct. Yeah, that's one of the big things we do in our office here is we test for everything. So as you mentioned, if you don't need vitamin D, you don't need vitamin D. So,
right.
Going to someone that is knowledgeable about the devices and the equipment, is paramount, I believe, in creating something that's going to work for them, because they may not need one thing that they read on the internet, so finding those people out there like yourself, I think is getting easier. Have you noticed a more upward trend in the amount of practitioners in this field?
Yes. We're starting to see some universities adding programs or courses to their general programs. Widener University is just adding in their School of Social Work a neurofeedback clinic. They already have a heart rate variability clinic. Wilkes University in Pennsylvania does a little bit of biofeedback training for their undergraduates. That's just so awesome.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Of course, Saybrook, is probably has the highest component of students and instructors and quality, and is the most accessible because it's an online university. There's a university in Texas, so we're starting to see that happening. Needs to happen more. One of the jobs of us as biofeedback providers is to bring awareness to the public, and the public includes consumers and universities and physicians. And
how have you managed to grow your practice and influence those around you to get this message out there that biofeedback is available to them to help with their performance in life in general?
That's a tricky thing to do. And, as you ask that, I want to ask you the same question, because I think that's part of how you do it, is you learn from other people. Typically, psychologists, chiropractors are better, I'm going to say, at marketing. I cannot speak from good knowledge, but I think, of course, there's more educational opportunities, and in that there's also practice development instruction. Whereas in psychological, social work, academic programs, you don't get practice development courses.
Right.
So how do you get that word out to the public? We actually hired a marketer.
Yeah.
Many psychology practices don't do, most don't do. We try to use online tools. So we have somebody in our office that we call our community service liaison. She goes out yesterday she went out to a recreational soccer league and talked with them about concussion, and talked with them about how you can get a baseline for concussion and how you can heal after concussion using neurofeedback, and how you intertwine that with the rest and with the medical care that you're getting. So it's a lot of just piece by piece education.
I love that you're getting out there and talking about concussions. That's a topic that I'm very passionate about, especially in the youth athletic market, with so many students having high training demands, and the incident rates now in girls soccer going up.
One of the fastest growing incidents. Who knew? Who would have thought that?
Exactly. Yeah. So I did a talk about a week ago on using these modalities, biofeedback, neurofeedback, the audiovisual entrainment for, the post-concussion. And I stress baseline concussion testing here with all the youth markets, because it's not regulated, it's not mandated by the organizations, and that literally blows my mind.
I know. And they're very happy to see you, aren't they? They're happy to know that you're there.
Surprisingly, it's about 50-50. For whatever reason, we seem to get a lot of adverse reactions to knowing that there's baseline testing, and people are apprehensive. Yes, I thought so too, because they don't want to either keep the athletes out when they get the concussions, or the liability reasons. They don't want to be responsible for putting them back on the field too soon. So there's it is. So there's certain ways that I'm looking for. If you have any advice, on stressing the importance of doing a baseline for the athletes, I would love to hear any.
Yeah, we offer at Sadar Psychological. We offer our baseline free. So we use a concussion management tool developed by a neurologist at the Excellent Brain, and when we speak like with that soccer organization, we just offer to baseline everybody for free. We want to convey the importance of it,
right?
But as you said, not everybody's going to do it, and you see that. You certainly see it at the professional level. People don't want to admit to having any cognitive problems because they want to get back out and play.
Right. Yeah, it's a kind of catch-22, You need the time to heal and recover to be better, but you don't want to miss that time because now you don't want to be sidelined.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, that's a challenge for athletes and, anyone that gets a concussion, car accidents, workers falling, horse riding. It's right. Yeah.
Even knowing you have one, a lot of people don't even realize they've had them. Because they'll say things like, "Well, no, I had a really big hit, but it wasn't a concussion."
How do you know?
How do you know that? Well, the coach did some screening with me, and coaches are trying to do a good job. I mean, gosh, so many of them are, at the rec level, they're all volunteer. So you can't fault the coaches. But yeah, your coach is not the person who should be making that decision.
Right. Yeah, we stress the importance of getting the proper medical attention and seeking those that are well versed in concussion management and recovery, working with chiropractors in the vestibular, training and rehabilitation, neuromuscular training. It all goes hand in hand. It takes a team to really get a person back to performing.
Right. Just like we feel like we're the only person working on it.
Right.
We want to include the chiropractic or the medical care, everything that you need.
Right, exactly. What has been one of your greatest success stories working in this field, helping someone using these modalities?
So many of them. It's such a rewarding field to work in, because when you're helping somebody who has tried other things, has been struggling over a long period of time, or somebody with peak performance that just isn't making the breakthrough that they're looking for, and they know they have the skills, and then we add that extra piece. It can be so rewarding, just generally speaking. Once we started doing specializing in evaluations, where we do a functional EEG, we're measuring the electrical activity in the brain waves, we're looking at that compared to a database that's a normative database, meaning it's research. It's got a lot of history and research supporting it. We include a neurological eval with a board-certified neurologist. We measure their attention via a performance task, and we measure how is their brain creating the performance, how is it processing. Being able to explain that to somebody is probably one of the most rewarding things I've been able to do, to help people understand how their brain is working. Creates a shift in the person where they're no longer looking at it as if I'm not able to sustain my attention over the course of a 3-set match because I'm dumb, or I can't keep my attention, or I don't do my pre-competition practice before my gymnastics routine because I'm a slacker or I'm lazy. If they can look at and understand that it's your brain that works this way and you have to work harder to overcome that, and there's methods that we have access to and you have access to that can not only make you work harder to overcome it, but can help make your brain work more efficiently, people feel such a great sense of relief and find hope. People very often will say that I have a lot of hope now that I understand this. It's when we don't have understanding that we can't find hope. We feel helpless. So that's been the most rewarding thing, is to be able to offer people the hope and the guidance how to improve.
That's amazing, because you put it into perspective about recognizing that they do have the ability and that it's not something that they have to deal with for the rest of their lives. It puts that shift into perspective that they have that ability to make the changes necessary. I think once people can see that, as you can demonstrate, through all your testing, it sounds very rewarding.
Yes, yeah. So it's a lucky field to be in.
I agree. I'm very, very happy to be in this field and continuing my journey with it, because I only see it moving in an upward direction. So that's why I really want to take time to sort of pick your brain, being in this field for so long, and being head of the Northeast division, and so you've got a lot of responsibilities with that. I would imagine.
At times, yeah. Again, it's always working with people. I mean, I get to meet people like you. I get to meet a lot of good, enthusiastic providers, and that's another rewarding part of the field. It's a very open field, because people that are doing it are doing it because they want to help people and they love what they're doing.
Yeah. It makes a big difference when you go to work and say, I love what I do. It's not a burden, you look forward to it. And that's
exactly.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I just want to help people tap into their untapped potential, because the possibilities are limitless when you really can just hone in on making your body and brain perform better.
Yes, yeah.
So I know that you are doing a new initiative that Vince had sent us. So
okay.
Would you like to explain that to us and the other partners that you're working with?
Yeah, I'm sorry, the audio just broke up for a second. Can you repeat that? You said about Vince, and I heard that.
About the new initiative that you guys are doing with some of the other professionals. Yeah. So just sort of explain, that program.
Yeah. So we've been selected by HBI Med, which is a company out of Switzerland, that has a partnership with a research laboratory in Russia with Dr. Yuri Kropotov, who has done a lot of research in the field of just brain activity. He actually won the Russian prize, which is the equivalent of the Nobel Prize, for his work. And so they have been doing research to develop a database that includes the measurement of evoked potentials. And evoked potentials are one of the most stable measurements of brain activity that's available. So when we look at the measurement of evoked potentials compared to an MRI or a SPECT scan or an EEG, the evoked potentials are the most stable measurement. And what they are a measurement of how does the brain process information. So when you're doing a task, how does it receive the information visually? How does it receive it auditorily? So your eyes send the information to your brain, and your brain has to say, oh, something came in. I see something now. Then you have to identify what you saw, and then you have to identify how you felt about that, and you have to connect that with past memories, and then determine what action should I take, or how should I restrain myself, and how did I do? All of that takes place about 3 times a second. The brain is constantly working. And now that we can measure that, we can see where the strain is on the brain, and we can guide the brainwave training and the neurofeedback training. So between us at Sadar Psychological and Boston Neurodynamics is another neurofeedback office, have been selected by HBI in BrainArc, Switzerland, to be the offices in the U.S. that launched this program, using their research, using their background, and having access to their researchers as we continue to collect data. So we're contributing to the field of research and more information about how the brain works, but we also are just, so happy that we've gotten some of the latest equipment. The equipment's not sold in the U.S. We had to get it shipped from Switzerland. It is FDA approved. They just don't have a distributor here yet.
Okay.
So that's what we've been doing to, offer the most comprehensive assessments that are available in the field.
That's amazing.
So yeah, we're super excited.
That's very exciting to be selected for that and to be able to utilize, the technology that's not readily available to others in the United States, and to see what the changes that you can make with this.
And what's particularly good about it is, with the evoked potentials being such a good measurement of brain activity, they are recognized by people who rely on research and rely on data. So it gives us a vehicle for communicating with the medical profession. And so that's our hope, is that we can, as we were talking about earlier, how do you get this information? How do you educate the public? But you also have to educate the people that are working with the public.
Yes.
And so if we can bring this information to physicians and provide support that this research that we're using is on par with the research that they're relying on for their pharma interventions, now we're bringing an additional treatment option to physicians to offer to their patients, so they're not just restricted to, well, we have medication, we have other methods now too.
I mean, that's so crucial to know and have the population know that they have options, that not everything needs to be medicated, and to do things without those negative side effects. But to get the recognition, as you said, from the medical profession as well. I know the Psychological Association has now, really come more on board with psychophysiology, which, I think is a huge win, because having a master's in psychology, that's where my interest got started with biofeedback, was doing the research on it, in my master's program. And I wanted just to take it further and, learn as much about it. And I found Saybrook. So it's kind of full circle of psychology and physiology with the psychophysiology. And I just, want to continue to grow that and, as you say, help others around to know the benefits of it,
Yeah. Yep.
So before we wrap up, would you be able to explain some of the conditions that people may not realize that biofeedback could be good for, or symptoms that they're kind of experiencing?
Mm-hmm. A colleague of mine that's very active in international tennis, I have to think of him before I even answer that question, because when I first started introducing him to biofeedback and neurofeedback, he said, well, it sounds like you're selling snake oil, because you're telling me it works for everything. But doesn't good health work for everything? So yes. Mm-hmm. So some of the conditions, we talked about peak performance, but when we look at peak performance, that's not a diagnosis, and who cares about the diagnosis? We're looking at how is the brain and the body impeding your performance. Mm-hmm. So when we have measurements of do you get anxious during a crucial point in a match or a game, that's what we're really looking at. So biofeedback and neurofeedback can help for anxiety, they can help for depression, they can help for sleep. We see wonderful improvements with kids with autism, as well as adults with autism. We talked about concussion. Even with mental retardation, the diagnosis can be mental retardation, but let's not overlook that the impacts that can have on the brain in terms of the excess strain, and ultimately that turns into the brain just fatiguing itself. So helping the brain work more efficiently can literally it doesn't raise your IQ, it raises your ability to access your IQ. Trauma, developmental trauma, when we look at the work of Bessel van der Kolk, who's one of the leading international trauma experts, he supports neurofeedback and presents that as an important aspect of the whole integrative treatment that you do for developmental trauma and the resolution of that. So yes, my friend's kind of right. It's like snake oil, and if you have something that has to do with your brain, that has to do with your body not relaxing, that has to do with you feeling uncomfortable, headaches, stress, tension, neck aches, trigeminal neuralgia, all of these things relate to our physiology.
It really does, and I stress that to everyone that I meet. Well, who could use this? And I say everybody. There's always something the body's going through that we may not be able to get out of on our own, and what better way to learn how than through bio and neurofeedback. So I completely agree that it's not snake oil, but
right.
There can be that misconception of, well, it's almost too good to be true. But
yes,
yeah.
Yeah.
So I sincerely appreciate you taking the time to talk about this field and the way that it can just help everyone out there. And if anyone would like further information from you or to contact you, what would be the best way?
We have a website, Sadar site, SADARPSYCH.com, or BrainArcEvaluations.com. Both of those work, and our phone number is 610-933-9440.
Thank you.
So we're glad to have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Angelika. You have a wonderful rest of the day.
You too.
Hey, beauty should be good for you. And Beauty Counter is a brand powered by people whose mission is to get safer products into the hands of everyone. If you're looking for clean, high-performing products for yourself and your family, please go to my website and connect with me to give you some unparalleled standards of beauty. Check out my website, BeautyCounter/Justine Bezzetta. That's BeautyCounter/JUSTINE BUZZETTA. I look forward to us connecting.